Hello and welcome to another edition of our Coffee Chat series, where we sit down with professionals across different sectors to have the conversations that matter to the digital community, especially our MSMEs that are currently marketing growth in Nigeria. My name is Hope, and today's conversation is one that many businesses do not consider early. Today, we're going to be discussing people, policies, and the structures that quietly shape whether a business survives or struggles. And with me today is Seun Akinade. He is a legal practitioner and a HR professional that's very passionate about strategic problem solving and helping organizations integrate legal and HR best practices to drive their overall success and compliance. Hello, Sean. Welcome to the session
Hello.
today.
Thank you so much for having me, Hope. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining us today. So we just dive right into the conversation. Many businesses, especially new businesses, they tend to focus on sales, they tend to focus on visibility, and they forget that HR structure is important for a business. They forget that there's legal structures too that they should be looking at. And some of them do not even know that this kind of structures for their businesses are very important. So they don't know until they have problems. So my first question to you today, Sean, is um from your experience working with small business owners, with businesses in general, what's the most common people and compliance issue that businesses underestimate?
Okay, thank you so much for the question. Like you said, I totally agree with you. When it comes to small businesses, especially when it comes to the founders or the head of the organization, they always feel like because we are still small and we're still starting small, so we might as well just do everything so small. They do not want to acknowledge the fact that no matter how small, large, or big you are, as long as you're a business entity and you're aimed to make money, you have to actually put the significant. I just finished NYS. Let I just come and work for me as a social media person without any certification. Let somebody just come and let my lawyer that is still in law school has not been called to bar. That is not even a proper lawyer yet. She's still in law school or she's even like a 500 level student in a university. But because she's the president of the association of that university, just feel she must be very brilliant. She's going to be a lawyer one day. Let her come and be the lawyer of my organization without a practicing license. Let the accounting friend that I have that is not an accountant yet, let her come and be the accountant or the head of finance of my organization because Napadi we did now. So a major thing that a lot of people just always overlook when it comes to SMEs in their business management is this whole informality. They just do things a little bit rough. And that's because of the old corporate mindset of we are small, so let's just act very small or even maybe a little beyond small. Because when we get there, we'll be able to avoid a lot of things that I want to do. But then now that we're in this stage, let's just stay here and just be doing everything in the best possible way. But then all these things always on the long run creates major risk. It creates risk when it comes to the kind of people you bring on board. It creates risk when it comes to compliance. You realize that some documentation that you should have been keeping or some taxes you should have been filing with some regulatory agencies, you've not done that for like a very long period of time because you don't have the right structures in place. And then after 2 years, when you're about to blow, that's when EFCC will come or CAC will come and say you've not filed your annual returns. And you didn't know you were meant to file your annual return because you don't have the person or you don't have a proper lawyer in place to let you know that you should file annual returns. The person you have in your organization that is acting as a lawyer is a student of a university that's not even finished 500 level. So all these things of let's just do it small leads to compliance issues, very, very major legal issues, human issues, even structural issues too. When maybe major investor wants to invest in organization and they ask, oh, I need this document, I need your SOPs, I need this, but you don't have all those things. And they're wondering, how have you been able to survive this long without having all these structures in place? And I want to invest like 1 billion naira into your organization, but because you don't have all these structures in place, you might just lose that investment portfolio. So it leads to a lot of things, but then the primary reason or the primary factor responsible for this is all this informality and corporate mindset. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. Some of us are very guilty of that accountant friends thing. I confess.
I know, right?
So it's very obvious to people, businesses, us, that remote work has become the order of the day, and it has significantly change the way that we operate as teams, as businesses, as organizations. But most businesses and organizations now offer their employees flexible arrangements and qualifying networks. Are there any risks, whether HR or legal, to this process?
Okay, so major risk that this remote work actually expose a lot of organizations to, whether big or small, is the number one risk is just data breach. Because now, when we say people are now working remotely, especially post COVID-19 or upon COVID-19, that means they don't come physically on site to the office. They just have to work from the comfort of their houses or wherever they want to work. But then the essence of a remote work is that you're not here physically. We don't care where you're working. A lot of people say they're working from home, but maybe they're not even working from home. Some people could literally be working from like a cafe or something. You wouldn't know. But the thing is, you are not here physically with us, at least for this particular day. So that obviously exposes our information to data breach because peradventure, no matter where you're working, for instance, if you're working at the comfort of your house and then you're like a family woman, that means maybe on your dining table, your workstation, you literally expose your computer and you're working and you leave to go and take a snack. You leave to go and attend to your husband or attend to your children and everybody in your house. Obviously, we are literally walking around and we are seeing everything. Our so-called confidential information or private information are literally just exposed to your husband, to your kids, to your friends that come on board. So data breach is like a major, major risk. And one of the major ways we can actually just manage this particular situation is that, or before I say the particular solution, one thing from experience, especially when it comes to SME, is that when they want to start this hybrid work mode, that is the on-site and the remote work. In fact, now in 21st century, now for the past 2 years now, this so-called working remotely is no more like a solution to COVID-19. It has become like a compensation or like some sort of benefits to employees. So it's part of a perk that you give because it just signifies comfort or comfortability factor. Like, okay, it's no more like you are coming to, or you are not coming to the office, you're working remotely because of COVID-19. No, it's like an addition to reduce your salary, or we cannot pay you so much, but then you get to work remotely. So when you hear remotely now, it's not like a solution to COVID. It's more or less like it's a comfort, like a perk, corporate perk you actually just give to employees when it comes to the HR sector. But then one thing people don't do now is that they just allow you work remotely, but there's no policy to guide the remote work setting. And that's the solution to these old data breaches, data violation. People are not reporting. You can't exactly track what people are doing when they are not here physically because they're working from home. And one of the major reasons, or the primary reason, is because there is no policy. That is always called a hybrid policy or a remote work policy in HR. And what this policy actually consists of is just the scope of how the remote work or the hybrid work is meant to be undertaken. For instance, the kind of resources, the kind of the technical resources you use when you are working from home. It's not your personal laptop you use when you're working from home. You use our official laptop to when you're working from home, and then the particular period of time you can work when you're at home. Also, the kind of password you use when you're working at home. Also, you don't work in your bed, you don't work in your kitchen, you don't work in your dining table, you work in a workstation. So even before you even start saying you want to start working remotely, you must give evidence that you have a particular bespoke workstation in your house that you're working. Because like I said, the essence of working remotely is that you're working in your house. But now you say you're working from home, but then you might even be working in your church because you went for choir rehearsal, broad daylight on a Monday morning because we are working remotely. So once you're able to have an hybrid work policy or a remote work policy, you can be able to put the necessary measures, security measures to prevent data breaches, to prevent people from just not working. So you can be able to track how people work. Then the reporting line, how do people report what they did when they're working remotely? Because obviously you can be able to easily track what they're doing when they're working physically because you can see them, you can literally walk to their laptop, you see them attending meetings, sending out emails. But when you're working in the comfort of their house, you don't even know. You just see somebody who just went quiet the whole day. Then the next day they came back to work and what did you do yesterday? But there has to be like a policy that's obviously bespoke to every organization and the nature of what they do. That should be every policy that just guards this how you actually undertake this remote work to prevent unnecessary risk like data breach risk, performance evaluation risk, all those kind of things, and also our documentation. How do we document what you do? How do we document the kind of materials you actually handle when you're working remotely? So the precise response or the precise solution that I always present to people that ask me this kind of question is just have a policy that guides this. And that's to make sure that the policy is very, very feasible, very, very feasible, and also give people, allocate enough resources, technological resources for people to actually work remotely better and to prevent data breaches. Because, for example, now you approve for somebody to work remotely, but they do not have like a personal, they do not have an official phone. Maybe the person is like a call center agent that handles calls 24/7. They don't have a call center phone. The call center phone is at the office, but then they're working remotely, but there's no phone. That means they have to resort back to their personal phones. That means all the company's data will be stored in their personal phone. Obviously, there will be data breaches. Literally speaking, there will be data breaches because their this can literally carry their personal phone and check one or two things. That means the spouse will have access to that confidential information. But once it is
Yes.
official phone, they won't check it. So allocate necessary resources, have a policy that guides all these things, and the policy must be very, very feasible. So those are the key two responses to that book.
Thank you, Cheryl. I believe to myself that remote working has become kind of like a benefit, and a lot of people are taking advantage of it. In fact, I saw
Yeah.
a video, I think last week or so, about a guy that joined a team meeting from the swimming pool, and the team members were laughing. That's very bad. I mean, remote work is not bad, it's good. It helps, those of us that can work better from home to work, in the comfort of our homes, it's beneficial. But now taking advantage of it, putting it so far, not really doing
Yeah.
the work that you're supposed to do, is the
Mm-hmm.
problem. And then I also agree with you, if you're approving for your team members or your employees to work from home, to be able to give them enough resources to work well. So imagine that I'm working for an organization and I use my phone or my laptop, to work for them. And there's a lot of documents that are stored in my systems. And yes, in my employment agreement, there was this clause that said that at the end of my tenure working with the organization, I have to delete
Mm-hmm.
everything that
Okay.
the
Yeah.
that the organization owns that's in my possession. How how do you know if the person has deleted everything? You know, like at the end of the day, how do you know if
Or
they
even if
deleted
they
it
have
from
to hand
their
over.
personal phones?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a lot of things. But thank you, Sharon. That's these very great insights. So moving on, speaking of employees, and
Okay.
especially many businesses, small businesses rely on interns as employees. They have freelancers, and when they are hiring, they tend to use verbal agreements. This is for small businesses, and that hire probably through WhatsApp. And a lot of time we find out there is no documentation around it, their hiring process. My question is, what points does it become risky? And what are the simplest protections that businesses, including small businesses, can put in place around this?
Okay. Thank you so much also for that question. So the first key thing I want to just precisely say is that according to the law, because I'm also a lawyer, according to the law, that's the Labor Act, you can actually hire anybody orally, so to say. What I mean by this is that somebody can literally, after the whole arrangement, the back and forth, the offer and the acceptance, the person can actually come and work with you without any written paperwork is allowed. However, it's only allowed for 3 months. That's more or less like for the 3 months of probation. After the first 3 months, there must be a written agreement or a contract to actually signify the concept that this person is actually working with you. That is, there must be a written contract or contract or an employment document that has been signed between the employer or the employee or between the two people that are actually working together. That is the person that employed and the person that's been employed. But it's only for 3 months. So within the first 3 months, I can be working orally and they be paying my salary. But then after these 3 months, there has to be a document for that. So I just wanted to precisely clear that. But it's just that, like you said, reality, 5 years, no paperwork. It's just by the agreement you have, the so-called arrangement you have, is just by WhatsApp. My guy, Alpha, and I'm looking for a job. Ah, you're looking for a job. Come and work for me now. And your Alpha will I be paid? Okay, my accountant be paying like 50K every month. Okay, no while and we go run now. That's all. But when does the problem start? The problem starts most especially in practice. Maybe it could literally be anything. And most of the time, it's always not even process problems. It's always human problem. maybe there's like some sort of conflict or disagreement between the parties involved, between the persons involved, then they'll not be wondering, or maybe there's like a change in power. Maybe there's now a new HR, like a proper HR that comes into the organization. The person, one of the things HR always do when they come into the organization, especially top head of HR, is that they want to audit everything that's been going on before, especially HR wise. So one of the things they do is that they want all the documentation of the people that currently work in this organization. I want all the offer letters. I want all the acceptance. I want all the contract of employment. Bring everything to me. And then two people now come and be like, I've been working here for like 10 years, or I don't have any contract of employment. So why are you here if there's no paperwork? So how do you even prove it? And some very thorough HR, they be like, I don't care. I don't care who brought you here. I'm going to tell the account now they should stop paying your salary because there's no evidence to prove that you're working here. Although there's some other implied evidence, such as the person's profile is on our website, the person has our email addresses, has official email addresses. There are some other things you can actually use to prove that somebody is working with the organization and is like a full-time employer or employee. But leave that apart. The point is that process has to be followed. Process in form of when you're actually having conversation. That's why there's a process of recruitment. And the process of recruitment starts with you putting it out there to say, we are looking for, there's a vacancy and we're looking for qualified people to fill up this role. And people apply. You put out an ad, people actually apply. They don't apply in their dreams. They actually send in an application that I am applying to be employed in this organization. And you do the whole process of interview and you give them a proper paper offer. And they accept it paper to say, I accept this offer, I start this day. And you onboard them and you integrate them into the organization. And they start work and they get paid. They come every day, they get paid. It's a whole process, a major exchange of activities. But when all these activities are just ignored, the problem starts. So one of the ways problem starts is if there's a change in power, there's a new HR that comes and wants to just put proper structure. Then realize that there has been a lot of problem. People just come in and go. The people have been paid. Some people, they say, enjoy the HMO benefits of an organization, and they're no longer in the organization because everything is not structured. You realize another major way there's a major way there's a problem is that maybe in terms of termination, or maybe somebody wants to resign, or you terminate somebody's employment without notice, no 1 month's notice. Then they'll be like, according to my contract of employment, it is stated that this is this. And then in fact, maybe this time there's actually a contract of employment. When I check the contract of employment, you realize that there's nothing stated in the contract of employment about termination. That's obviously because the contract of employment is not detailed. There are some key things according to the law, Labor Act, that must be in an employment contract. And part of it is the termination notice. How many days or how many months you have to give us before you terminate or before you resign. But in your so-called contract, your low-level, low-budget contract of employment is not stated, and then problem starts. Obviously, that will cause problem. Problem also starts when it comes to payments of salary, reduction, deduction of salary. But like I said, the overall thing that causes all this problem is that lack of structure. And it will show because when there is a weak foundation, as much as you try to grow, when you try to grow, the so-called weak foundation will just break. It will break and everything will just scatter. So that's really the response. But when it comes to the so-called protective measures you can put in place, it's just basic. When you realize there's no structure, just put proper structure in place. Sometimes proper structure could cost money, but then it's really, really better. On the long run, it saves you a lot of money because when there's any sort of conflicts or any sort of legal issues or risk, you have to spend like times 100 or what you could have just spent to actually just prevent all these things. So it's more or less like a preventive or proactive reaction to all this in structure workplace.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Of course, proper structure, you need a lot of money to be able to place proper structure in your business. I think that's what scares a lot of small business owners today. But I still believe that you could start small, right? You could start small, like you said. I think you mentioned the other time how you don't have to have like a 6-page, documentation of your policies or your whatever it is that you're saying, your SOPs. One document that clearly states, the processes is enough. And thank you very much.
Sure.
These insights they're very, very, important to the long-term growth and sustainability of a business. So let's
Yeah.
talk about compliance.
Okay.
Compliance is often seen as very expensive, like you mentioned. Small businesses across Nigeria see it as something that only the big companies can afford. And even the so-called big companies, they are slacking in some areas, areas such as taxes and certain benefits for their employees, and even legally as well. So Cheryl, how can our businesses stay compliant, stay safe without overwhelming their finances and without slowing down the growth of their business?
Okay, so I'm just going to be treating this key by key when it comes to subject matter. So for example, when it comes to compliance, like I said, one of the key the Labor Acts of Nigeria that governs the general employment relations or labor relations in Nigeria states that there are certain key things that needs to be in any contract of employment. They just have to be there. If one thing is missing, then you're not complying. And then when you carry it to courts, one of the things the judge will ask you that, but this is meant to be there, why is it not there? So you're not compliant like that, briefly speaking. So one major way you want to comply, but maybe like low budget compliance or low budget strategies to still comply. One of the things you want to do when it comes to the subject matter of your recruitment or your onboarding of new hires is when it comes to the area of employment, use templates for your documentation. There are various templates that are available. You can just get a consultant to just develop for you a very short 5 pages or 3 pages template for your contract of employment. And then when people come, you just particularly use that template. Although you have to use the template very, very carefully, so you don't just go and use the wrong information for the another person. Just have like a template, a very quality, good template that you can always use for your employees when they come on board. So you don't have to start engaging like a lawyer to draft a contract of employment for you every single time somebody's coming. So just use like a template, very good template that is compliant with the Labor Act, and then you're good to go when it comes to the area of employment. Another major area when it comes to structure and processes that to actually ensure compliance, have training and development for your team. Another major thing, have training and development for your team, because trust me, you wouldn't know if you will definitely not comply to anything you're not aware they have to comply to. So one of the major ways you actually do this is just your corporate exposure. Everybody in the organization from top to bottom, let them be like quality people that they actually take self-development as key. You're learning every day. As you learn, you realize, oh, guys, I was reading about this thing yesterday. We need to file our annual returns. Oh, really? Let's go and file our annual returns. You react to all these things very, very quickly. Know them very, very quickly before you now start facing unnecessary risk. So just training and development is a major strategy to actually ensure compliance. It will go a long way when you're always training your staffs. Oh, guys, in the corporate world, these are the corporate protocols to avoid unnecessary problem in the future, to ensure compliance. Let's start to do this. Let's start to avoid data breach. Let's start to avoid data violation. These are to avoid data violation. So all those things are more or less like proactive measures to ensure compliance on the short term, but then these are benefits you actually get on a long run. So number one, template when it comes to your employment documentation, handbooks, your employment letters, your offer letters, your memos. Let there be templates for them. Number two, training and development. Number three also is to document everything. Extremely important. Always document a lot of things. When it comes to your annual returns for filing, when it comes to the CAC, when it comes to organization, as you file them, print a copy and save them properly. Don't just send it to somebody's WhatsApp and then you don't even download it from WhatsApp. You don't even save it in an actual folder. And then tomorrow you realize the person has died. And now CAC shows up and they say, give us evidence of your annual returns. You're like, I sent it to my friend. Do I send it to the auditor on WhatsApp? Now he has passed. You don't have his phone. How do we do that? No, that's not documentation. That's just information exchange. Documentation is that, okay, you kept this thing somewhere. So after 15 years, if somebody's ever looking for this information, there's a platform they can go to. There's a cloud, and your information, your documents, your folders are stored properly. They are arranged structurally that at any point in time, even during the point of emergency, when speed is prioritized, you can just go to A, B, and C, and you see what you're looking for. Not that you ask, where's your certificate of incorporation? And everybody's like, where did you put the printed certificate of incorporation? And they're like, do you have it? Do you have it? Do you have it? That's to show that your documentation is very, very, very bad. Then the next thing you people can actually do to ensure compliance, which is the last thing I'm going to say, is to have policies for everything. Like we stated clearly earlier about the hybrid or the remote policies that actually prevent data breaches, which is a major risk that is exposed to when it comes to this remote work. Have policies that guide everything. in an organization, there should be policy that guides the use of official gadgets. How do you use our official gadgets? You're working with us. If you misplace our official gadget, what happens? If it gets stolen, what happens? How do you report what? So policies, various policies should be in place. And like I always say about policies, policy is not just documents that you just put and then it makes everybody goes gaga. No, the policies must be feasible. They must be workable. So don't put policies that are just there at piece of paper that people read, but then they are not workable. So at every point in time, policies must be workable. They must be smart. They must be very, very feasible. If not, it just becomes extremely redundant. So when you adhere to the policies, proper compliance policies, obviously. So every policies you want to actually just develop for your organization, just bring a team of people together, call an HR professional, a very good HR professional, call like a lawyer, say, oh guys, we want to develop policies for our organization. We're just building. What are the policies to put in place? They will not tell you. Policies must affect three things in any organization, especially startups. A policy must affect your interpersonal strategies. That is how people relate to each other. Policies could be like, what time do you go for break? What time? How do you use this? How do you do that? How do you knock on the door of your supervisor? Who do you report to? Just all those interpersonal policies, such as don't shout at the office, how you behave at the office, how things are done in a proper workspace, in our workspace. So policies must be either streamlined to interpersonal strategy or technological strategy. Like I gave the example, official gadgets use policy. How do you use our official gadgets? How do you use our Wi-Fi? How do you use our password? How do you use our access codes? So all those policies, technical policy. Then last one is the structural policy. Those are the ones like when we now have like SOP, operating standard operating procedure. How do we do things in our organization? How do we achieve this? These are the proper things that we do in the organization, and our project, our execution and implementation, that policies that cover everything. So when you have policies that actually cover these key areas, definitely I'm telling you, you're good to go, and there will be less compliance issues in the future, especially as you grow. Because you can start small, but then as you grow, you realize that there's a major default, because now as you are growing, the weak foundation that you put in place is just breaking because it's weak. But if you have a strong foundation, no matter how much you grow, everything, your organization is still standing firm and still standing strong. So those are the key points I'd love to share.
Thank you very much, Carol. I really agree with everything that you said, and it's been very interesting listening to you. Um, I wish that our audience, those of us watching right now, will understand that the key points that ties all of this is documentation. And just to speak to the part where you mentioned how people send their documents via WhatsApp, they're not saving it. That's why we have, some digital tools. A lot of them are free, including Google, your Google Drive. You have enough space to save your documents, and anytime you want to access them, even without using the same phone, you can actually access them. So make sure that you get to start using, yes, digital tools like that. And so we're coming to the end of the session for today. I know that I've learned a lot, and a number of us to watching have learned a lot by this time. Um, but I also believe that there's one business owner right now that's watching us, that is a bit confused about what their next steps will be. They've listened to the conversation. They've now seen that these structures are important for their business growth and sustainability, and they want to do something about it, but they don't know exactly how they can start. So can you please share with them what practical steps that they can take immediately to build and to strengthen their policies, their structures, and even their people culture in for their businesses?
Okay, so one key thing in HR is always called organizational development. Some people call it organizational mapping or organizational audits or organizational design, but I always call it organizational development. So what this basically means in practical sense, which is in response to your question of what people need to do or startups or founders need to do, is that just where is HR that actually does all this organizational development, though, but then just maybe you might want to read a bit about it, or you can just reach out to any qualified human resources professional to just come on board. What they will do when it comes to the organizational development is that they will audit what you have now. They will audit what you have on ground now, and then they will make recommendations on what it should be. considering where you want your organization to go. Because me, I'm coming on board as an HR consultant. I don't know your vision for the organization. So you tell me your vision as a founder that this is where you want my organization, this is where you want your organization to be. Once I'm able to fully understand that, I'll now tell you, okay, that's what you want it to be. But then this is what you have now. And then for you to be able to achieve your vision, you need this. You need to put this particular kind of people in place. You need this particular kind of team in place. You need this particular kind of quality structure in place. You need this particular kind of structure when it comes to the technological the enforcement in place, you need this kind of policies and processes in place and the SOPs in place. Once you're able to do that, I'll not maybe now also now extend it to designing like some sort of hierarchy design for you. I will not put, okay, in the next future or henceforth, these are you be, these are the major rules you need to fill, these are the major rules you need to have. I will literally just design the organization from you from scratch, from top to bottom and from bottom to the end. Like I said, in consideration of where you want your organization to be, like your vision, because I'm just a consultant. I do not know your vision. I might probably not care about your vision, but I need to have the conversation with you first. What is your vision for this organization? You tell me, I will tell you this is where you are, this is what you need. Just organizational development. Then we now develop the organization based on what we have and in consideration to what you want it to be in the future. And trust me, there is no way you will not see a change. You see a change in the kind of quality of people that you have. You see a change in the kind of training of the people that you have. And when you train your employees, trust me, you train them and they become more productive. And when they become more productive, the organization itself makes or generates more revenue. And when you generate more revenue, you're able to really push the agenda of your vision because you need money to be able to get to wherever you want to get to as a founder or as an organization. So a lot of things goes on, but then the primary umbrella is just organizational design or organization development, whatever a lot of HRs want to call. So just engage an HR professional, a consultant, HR consultant, then discuss with him. He will literally tell you what to do. Most or preferably HR professionals, they definitely know what to do when it comes to structure, processes, systems, performance, things like this. So that's just the response and the key action point.
And thank you very much. Here for small business owners that have teams of one and two and probably do not have the money to engage, these HR consultants. Do you think that there are HR consultants that do pro bono work and for small businesses?
Yeah, the HR consultant that they can do that. Yes, definitely. Even I'm also an HR consultant. I do pro bono for startups too, but then not like a long-term pro bono before they use me for life like that for what. So it could just be like, okay, well, there'll be like a package. I'll do this for you, which will obviously ends up on a long run generating some money for you. When that money comes, I get a pay, or I just do this for you just to build a relationship. But then you cannot get any professional, any major HR consultant to actually do like a 360 HR operations for your organization for free. Not in Nigeria, maybe outside Nigeria, but Nigeria, you probably might not see that, or they just want to do it from the goodness of their heart. But just engage HR professionals. Some people just want to, let's just do this. Really.
Okay, guys, you heard it here. Seun Akinade does a little bit of professional work for small businesses that are just starting out. So it's not going to be long term. So one here if you need his help. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. If you are a business owner that is watching us today, and today's conversation is a reminder that growth is not just about speed. This is for your business. It's about building systems that can help you to carry your business forward. And if you found this conversation very helpful, please do not forget to like, to subscribe, to join the conversation. Drop your comments in the chats, in the comment section, and we will get back to you. And let us know what part of your business feels the most confusing right now. And we'll be here to support you. So thank you again, Sean, for coming on the session. Thank you for sharing those really insightful information. Yes. I'm sure that our businesses can start implementing everything that they've learned from this session like today. Thank you
Amen.
everyone for watching. Thank you for watching. Bye.
Yeah, bye.